tight end position, and the tight ends nowadays are more like how the receivers used to be back in the day. They're more the pass catchers now in teams' offenses. So who's your top tight end going into this year's draft?
Well, for this year's fantasy draft, you can flip a coin and come up with a great #1 tight end out of the top 2. I have to go with Jimmy Graham out of New Orleans. Reason being, we know the Saints play in that wide open offense, and Drew Brees, ever since his days in San Diego, he has a knack for finding the tight end. And Jimmy Graham, we all know, is a special athlete. This guy is 6'6", has ridiculous hands, and he's fearless. I mean, you watch him playing games, and Drew Brees sets him up to be hit really hard lots of times, and this guy just goes up and gets the ball, gets up for the next play, and he's very crafty after the catch. So Jimmy Graham is my #1 tight end.
Now you talk about a guy that plays above the rim, and that's Jimmy Graham completely. Who's number 2?
Number 2 obviously is Gronkowski out of New England. Here's a guy, physical monster. Last year, 17 touchdowns, playing in a system with a quarterback like Tom Brady, who's always going to look for the open man. And Gronkowski is a big guy. He's a challenge for any safety or linebacker to cover. And in the red zone, he also is helped out by having Hernandez and Wells Welker on that team. So it's no wonder why, even though he scores a lot of touchdowns, he's a guy that stays open because there's so many other threats on that team. You have to be ready for the goal line handoff in that Patriots offense, Welker in the slot, and there's Hernandez. And having Gronkowski, he's the #1 target.
He's in the perfect situation. It's funny how a lot of teams passed him up because of that alleged back injury they had in Arizona. Great target. Who's number 3?
Number 3, I have to go with Vernon Davis out of San Francisco. Davis, ever since he came out of the draft, has ridiculous physical abilities. The guy can run like a deer. He looks like Hercules as far as physically, and he's known to catch the ball. He's another guy that will make some big catches. And Alex Smith proved last year that that's a guy that he's going to look for in key situations. And Vernon Davis, I look for him to have another productive year.
Yeah, Vernon Davis is a guy that has grown into a very good, complete tight end. Also is very active in blocking. One of the best tight ends in the league. Who's number 4?
Well, number 4, you got to go with Old Faithful. That's Jason Witten. Here's a guy, we talk about consistency. You know Romo is going to look for him. You know Witten is going to run that seam route 50 times a game, and he's going to come up with that ball. Witten, he had a drop in touchdowns, but I look for his production to go up this year. Romo is always looking for him. He just didn't find the end zone as often as he would have liked to last year.
Yeah, and Witten doesn't have any speed.
Exactly.
But he's always open, always catches the ball, and always has a way of getting in the end zone. Who rounds out your top 5?
Well, my top 5 will be illegitimate without Tony Gonzalez. You're talking about the greatest tight end of all time. He plays with the check down master and Matt Ryan. He's always looking for him. So Tony Gonzalez, forget about the A's. The guy has access to the fountain of youth somewhere because he looks the same, plays the same, catches the same, runs the same. I don't know how old he is.
One of my favorite tight ends of all times. Consistent guy, athletic, the first basketball player to play tight end in that situation, that term, that use of the word. Who's number 6? You just missed your top 5.
Number 6, I gotta go with Antonio Gates. Antonio Gates is a guy, if he can stay healthy, he's proven to be one of the most toughest guys to cover in the league. And Antonio Gates, he has the hands, he has the size, and he plays with an all-pro quarterback in Phillip Rivers. The only thing is, he's been hampered by a lot of nagging injuries, toe injuries, and things of that nature. So he would have been in the top 5, but due to his inconsistencies with injuries, that's what moved him out, and that's how he ended up being number 6. But if he's healthy, he's easily a top 5 dude.
And that's the most consistent thing about Antonio Gates is his injury history, so you can't really bank on that in fantasy. Who's number 7?
Number 7, I have to go with Aaron Hernandez. Now I know this is a guy on the same team with Gronkowski, but you look at a tight end who had almost 1,000 yards receiving last year, over 7 touchdowns receiving, playing with another all-pro tight end. And what makes Gonzalez very special, what makes Hernandez very special is his agility after the catch. This guy has wide receiver-like moves. When he catches the ball in the open field, he's very dangerous. So on his highlights, you see him making multiple people miss on his way to the end zone. So I love Aaron Hernandez, and I know he shares catches with Gronkowski, but he's very dangerous and he puts up consistent fantasy numbers.
And the one thing he doesn't share with Gronkowski is handoffs. He gets carries out of the backfield.
Exactly.
Tremendous talent. Who's number 8?
Number 8, we got to go with Jermaine Gresham in Cincinnati. Jermaine Gresham is a guy from Oklahoma. He's the consummate tight end. He has the size, he's willing to block, he has very, very soft hands, he's a threat in the red zone, and he's a great player. I'm glad to see him playing with a quarterback like Andy Dalton. Like you say, they bring over Orson Charles from Georgia, so that should get him more space when they come in double tight. And I just look for Gresham to build on the production that he had last year.
Yeah, Gresham is probably going to take the biggest leap out of all these tight ends this year. I think that Cincy offense is going to open up tremendously with the additions they made in the offseason. Who's ninth on your list?
Ninth would be Dustin Keller from the New York Jets. Now, this is a kid who also has, I wouldn't say Hernandez-like agility, but this guy is very dangerous after the catch as well. What he suffers from is inconsistency in the offense overall. Sometimes it looks as if the Jets don't know what they're doing. Right. So I expect Keller, if they bounce back, if Sanchez has a good year, that he'll put up the numbers that you expect from a starting tight end. I really love what he does after the catch. And so, and Keller is a dangerous kid. He's their starting tight end. If Sanchez gets his head on straight, doesn't fall under the Tebow pressure, he'll have a great year.
And even if Tebow comes in, that's just going to open things up for the tight end. So he's in a good situation. The offensive coordinator, we're going to see what Sperano can do with that offense and build some type of consistency. Who rounds up the top 10?
And my 10th tight end would be Jermichael Finley for the Green Bay Packers. Here's a kid who also is a freakish athlete, super tall, very long. He has good speed to beat single coverage by a linebacker, and he plays with Aaron Rodgers. Now, the biggest thing is, like I say, playing in that system that they spread the ball around a lot. But Jermichael is their starting tight end. He had over 7 touchdowns last year. I look for him to build on that production as well. He is a threat, and in that Packers offense, you can't go wrong with that starting tight end.
Yeah, he has to just clean up those mental lapses through a game when he drops those easy balls. That can be a problem not only for your team but also in fantasy.
And that's how he slid down to the bottom, because he doesn't have the best hands, but he's a freakish athlete, and when he does hold on to the ball, he tends to make things happen.
And that's pretty impressive. So that's a pretty impressive top 10. I have no arguments with that. Let's take a look at where you have some of the other tight ends rated for this fantasy football draft.
You have to like Fred Davis as an option at the tight end position. Playing with a rookie, he's going to go underneath a lot. He's going to find him, and also he's a very good player. Brandon Pettigrew plays in a wide open offense. He's going to get a lot of passes. He's a very good tight end, especially near the goal line. You look at Owen Daniels, outstanding tight end. The top 3 guys were outstanding tight ends, play with the Texans. You look at a former Texan, Joel Dreesen, going out to the Broncos, playing with Peyton Manning. He's going to find some success. Brent Selleck is one of the more underrated tight ends in the league. He's playing a very good offense out there in Philadelphia. Should put up great numbers. Greg Olsen had a solid year last year. Should carry over to this season playing with Cam Newton. Kyle Rudolph is falling in the same situation as the receiver Percy Harvin, playing with a guy in Christian Ponder that has some improvement that he has to make. Coby Fleener is in the ideal situation as a rookie, playing with his best friend Andrew Luck in that offense, that dual tight end offense. Anthony Fasano, one of my favorite players, is playing in an offense probably with a rookie quarterback, so he's going to go to the tight end. Heath Miller, very underrated tight end, will probably get some play near the goal line as he's one of the better tight ends in the league. Got to welcome back Tony Moyaki from the Kansas City Chiefs. He should put up huge numbers again as he did 2 years ago before he had the injury last season. Kellen Davis is a guy you want to keep an eye on. Should put up big numbers in that Bears offense. They're going to throw the football a lot this year, in my opinion. Ed Dixon, very solid tight end. Can flank out wide and play some receiver for the Ravens. Barcady Lewis falls into the category playing with Blaine Gabbert, so his numbers will be low again unless Henne gets to start. Jared Cook, underrated tight end for the Titans. Keep an eye on that guy. He had some big plays last season for Tennessee. Dennis Pitta shares the tight end duties with Ed Dixon out there in Baltimore, so they're going to split catches probably this season. You look at Martellus Bennett going to the New York Giants. It'll be interesting to see how Eli Manning incorporates him into the offense. Jacob Tamme goes out to Denver. Should have some success. Already has chemistry with Peyton Manning. Kellen Winslow is another sleeper you want to keep an eye on. Very good player in a bad situation in Seattle as they have some uncertainty at the quarterback position. Scott Chandler plays in an offense with uncertainty at the QB spot, although he's a solid tight end. Same goes for Evan Moore, although he may get a little bit more burn with Brandon Whedon. And Orson Charles is a guy you want to keep an eye on as a rookie playing for the Cincinnati Bengals.